and Nutmeg Ravioli with a sage and brown butter sauce. There's 3 parts to this dish. The first part is the pasta. I'm going to show you how to make the pasta from scratch. The second part is the filling, which we're going to do a really lovely and sweet nutmeg and pumpkin filling. And the third thing is the sauce, which we're going to make as well. That's a brown butter with sage sauce. So we're going to do this in 3 parts, and I'll run through the ingredients for the whole lot just now. 200 grams of strong plain white flour, 1 whole egg, and 4 egg yolks separated from the white, just the yolks. 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and 2 tablespoons of cold water. So for the filling, for the centre of our ravioli then, you're going to need 2 small or 1 large pumpkin, half a teaspoon of black pepper and half a teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of nutmeg, and 25 grams of butter. And finally, for the sauce to go with our ravioli, we're going to make a brown butter and sage sauce. So you'll need some butter. I've got 150 grams, and I've just chopped that into cubes because it makes it melt evenly. I have a small handful of sage leaves here. I'm just going to roughly chop those. And I also have a teaspoon of balsamic vinegar. Making pasta is something that's so easy to make. I think people just prefer to buy it from the shop for convenience more than anything. But I'm going to show you how I make it. So first things first, I always use a surface. I don't use a bowl. I think it's much easier using a flat surface. Make sure your surface is nice and dry. And as I have here, just pour your flour onto that dry surface. And then what you want to do is make a well in the centre of your flour. I always think the difference in making your own fresh pasta to the dried stuff you buy from the shop, there's such a massive difference. So into the centre of that well, you're going to pour your egg yolks and crack your whole egg in there as well. And then into that egg, we're just going to mix our flour and just work that egg into that flour. When you've sort of semi mixed it, you're going to get your salt in there as well. And then just continue to work that flour and egg together. So you'll notice when you start getting that really nicely combined, you've almost got like what looks like a crumble topping, like a crumbly biscuit base. So you're going to make that well again in the centre. And we're going to go in with approximately half of our water. Again, work that together with your hands nicely. And we're looking to eventually form a nice dough. So when you've worked that bit of water in, do the same again. Create your little well, go in with the rest of your water. Keep mixing together with your hands, starts coming together nicely. Okay, so when you start forming this nice dough, that's when you want to pour a bit of your olive oil on there, and again, work that together. Repeat the process as you're going along. A little bit more oil on there. Keep repeating that process until you've used all your oil, all your water. Your eggs are nicely mixed in there too. Now we've finished kneading our pasta into our pasta dough ball. It's very, very important to allow this to rest. Basically, that's going to allow the gluten in the flour to do its magic. So wrap it in a towel or wrap it in cling film and just set it to a side for at least 1 hour. Okay, so our pasta's had a couple of hours now, and that's exactly the consistency we're looking for it. So I'm going to show you how to get these little ravioli shapes and how to roll our pasta. There's 2 ways you can do it. Number 1, use a pasta roller machine like we have here. Number 2, if you don't have one of them, you can have a rolling pin and you can do it by hand. I'll show you both ways. First of all, we'll start off with the pasta roller. So first things first, you want to get a little bit of flour between your fingers. Just make sure you flour your rollers on your pasta machine. Last thing you want to do is get your pasta sticky. And then what we're going to do is just take a smallish amount of our pasta. The best advice when rolling pasta is you often have a little setting on the side that can, it's like a gauge that tells you how thick your pasta is going to be. If you move it to the lowest setting first of all, so your pasta is quite thick when it comes through, and then reduce it gradually until you get the thickness you want. Otherwise, you end up destroying your pasta as it goes through. So, as you can see here, it's on quite a thick setting at the moment, but that is our pasta through once. So I'm going to turn the gauge up so the pasta becomes even thinner, and feed it back through. Okay, fantastic. That's better still. I still want it slightly thinner than what I have it here, so I'm going to go through again with our pasta. And this consistency I'm getting now, this is exactly what I'm looking for. And as you'll see, your pasta does go a long way. So when you get to this stage, make sure you flour your surface again. Always keep your hands nice and floured as well. Just going to lay our pasta on our surface, and using, a pastry cutter, any size you like, we're going to cut ourselves some nice discs of pasta, and these are going to be our ravioli sheets. We're going to set these individual little ravioli sheets to a side on a floured plate. The other way, if you don't have a pasta machine, again, we'll take the same amount of pasta, and using a floured surface this time, and a floured rolling pin, it's just a case of rolling by hand. Make sure you keep turning the pasta, and make sure you keep topping up your pin with some flour, otherwise your pasta will stick to your rolling pin. Okay, so same method applies. Take a little cake slice, and then we're going to just cut out our ravioli discs. Like so. And we're just going to set them to a side on our floured plate. And don't throw this away, the remaining pasta. You just knead that back together, and you can continue using that as well. Okay, so once you've got all of your ravioli cases set out on a plate, just set that to a side. We're going to use them later. For now, we're going to concentrate on making our filling. So you want to quarter your pumpkin, just like I've done here. And it's this section here that we want, this flesh part around the outside. We don't want the guts and we don't want the skin. You can keep them, every part of a pumpkin can be eaten, and we're just not going to use them for this dish. So you want to scoop out the guts in the middle and just discard them into a bowl, or keep them for a different pumpkin dish if you like. So the bit we're after is the lovely pumpkin flesh around the outside. So be very careful when you're cutting this out. Take a sharp knife, just really carefully cut off the actual skin of the pumpkin. You'll be left with all this flesh. It just makes it much easier just cutting the skin off the outside. Just like that. And then what you're left with is an entire piece of pumpkin. You can just chop that up, and that's what we're after, the flesh. I'll chop these up into smallish pieces just so they boil relatively quickly. Right, so after you've got all the flesh from this lovely pumpkin and your water's boiling, quite simple. Pop your pumpkin into the boiling water, pop the lid on, turn the heat down to a nice simmer to give that 20 to 30 minutes. Okay, so when you're happy that your pumpkin's cooked, always check it with a sharp knife. It's lovely and soft, is that? I'm just going to drain all this water off into a colander, just to drain over there. The heat's now off. And then into a bowl, we're going to go in with our nutmeg, our salt and pepper, and our 25 gram knob of butter. Our pumpkin's nicely drained off. We're going going to mash all that together, work all those lovely flavours together, and this is going to be our filling. Okay, so that's our really simple pumpkin and nutmeg filling done there. I'm just going to leave that to a side to cool just for about 10 minutes. While we're waiting for this to cool, we're going to make a little egg wash. So just take an egg, and you want the whole thing in a little dish or a bowl, and just mix it with a tiny drop of milk. There we go, just beat that together with a fork. It doesn't have to be anything flash. It's just going to help our pasta stick together so that when we boil it, it doesn't come apart. Okay, so now's the tricky part, or it can be tricky anyway. So we're going to start putting together our ravioli parcels. So you want to take one of your ravioli parcels and a floured board. Just pop your ravioli on the floured board and dip your finger into your egg wash. And then just run your egg wash all the way around the outside of your ravioli parcel. If you have a brush, use a brush, you might find that easier. Okay, now don't overdo it. Probably about half a teaspoon of your filling into the middle of your ravioli. Take another piece of ravioli, egg wash again around the outside. Place it over the top. And very gently, using a fork, just crimp it right the way around. That's going to help the whole thing stick together. Make sure it won't come apart when we boil it. And then that is one, if you don't drop it, that is one complete ravioli parcel. I'm just going to set that to a side again on a floured plate. Repeat that until I've filled all of our parcels. Alright, so once you've made up your ravioli, as many of them as you want, there's only two things left for us to do, and that's cook the ravioli and make the sauce. So you want to grab yourself a large pan and put that on the boil, and also you want a small pan, just leave that for now. Okay, timing wise, this is quite important. With our sauce, what we're going to make is what's called a brown butter sauce, which essentially is burning your butter. That's why I've cut our butter up into cubes, so it melts more evenly. So just before your water's about to boil, turn your small pan onto a high heat. Pop your butter into the pan. Grab yourself a wooden spoon, just keep that moving. Right, so while your butter's just melting down there, our water's now boiling. So what we're going to do very, very carefully is pop our raviolis into our water. Okay, so that's our ravioli in there. Well, they're cooking away there nicely. Our butter has melted. You see, what we want from the butter is it starts to produce this foam. As this butter starts to form this nice foam on top. So now we've got that foam, I've just popped our sage leaves in there. They're going to crisp up really nicely in there as that butter starts to brown off. The sauce is really starting to brown off now, the butter's just turning. So we're going to go in for our last minute with our teaspoon of balsamic vinegar. It's just going to finish off that sauce fantastically well. Alright, so when you're happy, your pasta's cooked and your sauce is cooked as well, all that's left to do is serve. A slotted spoon or a colander. Drain your water from your pasta as you serve, and then literally with a small teaspoon just drizzle a little of this brown sage butter with balsamic vinegar over the top.